everyone, it is your friend Riley from Los Angeles, and today I have with me a little friend to hold because I'm going to be telling you a story that was very stressful at the time it happened. One of the Monty Python guys has this great quote about comedy where comedy is something you watch, tragedy is something that happens to you. So we're going to share a little story of the debacle I went through when I tried to buy a new phone recently. So I was trying to buy a new phone. I wanted the new iPhone. I haven't gotten a new phone in years, and my old phone, it was good when I got it. It was like the Samsung S7 or something, but now the poor thing was just struggling. So I decided to retire it and get the new iPhone, and I figure I'm gonna have this phone for like 4 years. Like, I don't buy phones that often. So I'm hoping this lasts like a long time, like 4 to 6 years if I can. I don't know. Phones always, they stop working like after a little while. But I wanted something really good because I'm gonna have it for a couple years, and I'm gonna level with you. I wanted to make good TikToks. And the phone I had beforehand had really bad audio and video. I actually filmed the comedian's makeup tutorial, the 3-part series I just did, on my new iPhone. So that's all to say that I was very excited to have a new phone, and I went into this process with optimism and joy. As I start most endeavors. I didn't want to do pay-as-you-go. I've actually had like pay-as-you-go phones for a while. I was like, you know what? I'm a grown-up and I'm just gonna get a normal contract. I'm a grown-up and I'm gonna get a normal contract, etc. I was very excited and I wanted to buy it the simplest way. And to me, that meant like not having to go to a bunch of different places. So I just picked what I thought would be the best provider. I went with Sprint because they seem to have the lowest cost for like the most data or whatever. I agonized over this choice for like 3 days and I finally went with Sprint. And I was going to buy the phone through them and I was going to get the contract through them because that way when the phone came it would be all ready. I thought this was going to make the process easy for me. I went to go buy it from Sprint and I was sad because I didn't have rose gold, and I know that's like not a huge deal, but rose gold is definitely the prettiest color that the phone comes in. I did not want that like forest green or whatever, but they didn't have it, so I was like, whatever, I'm gonna get a case anyway. Like, I agonized over the color of the phone, and then I was like, I'm just gonna get a case anyway, so what's the point about worrying about the color of the phone? So I just picked a phone, made all those choices. iPhone 11 Pro, because it's the smallest one for my tiny raccoon hands. I thought about getting the Pro Max because it has the best camera, but I wouldn't know how to work it. Like, there's no reason that I need a camera that nice, and my tiny raccoon hands would not be able to hold a phone that's that big. So I went online to Sprint to buy the phone. And I say we because my boyfriend was sitting there having to deal with all this as I agonized through it. When you're buying the phone through Sprint, and I was just outright buying it. I wasn't looking to lease. I had some money saved up and I was just going to buy the phone. That just seemed like the easiest thing to do. So I was just going to buy the phone. And when you do that, they still want you to do a credit check. And I was like, that's weird. And I looked it up because I was like, is it a hard check or a soft check? Because a hard check actually affects your score. Your score goes down. And so I just wanted to know. And it's a hard check. Sprint does like a hard credit check on your phone when you're trying to buy. When you're trying to buy the phone. So I thought that was weird. Especially since I wasn't asking to, like, the phone is expensive, but I wasn't asking to lease it. I just was going to buy it outright. And the bill, like the monthly bill, was not going to be a lot of money. I was like, this is like going to be the lowest bill in my life, so why do you need a credit check? But anyway, I put in my number. I didn't figure it was that big of a deal. Put in my social security or whatever so that they could check it, and it went through. And then I got back, rejected. please call so that we can continue helping you with the order over phone. I don't like talking to people on the phone, but this was weird. I have good credit. There was no reason that it should have gotten rejected. So I called again. Well, I called for the first time. You notice I'm already saying I called again. Because that's going to happen a lot. So I called for the first time, and the person says very helpfully, "Oh, it didn't go through? Just go try it again." And I'm like, that's going to do another credit check on me. That's going to do another hard credit check, right? And they were just like, "Yeah." I'm like, okay. So I went to go try it again. I put it in again, and it said, "Rejected" again. So I call again, and I said, "Okay, don't tell me to just put it in again, because it rejected me. So what do I do?" And then they actually looked this time to see what was wrong, and they said, "Oh, well, the problem is that the address that your credit card is associated with is not the address you tried to ship to. It's that I have a UPS box because people steal shit when it comes to my apartment, and I wasn't about to send this phone directly to my apartment if somebody was gonna just abscond with it." So I was like, okay. Do they have to be the same? And they were like, yeah, they have to be the same. You have to ship it to the same place that the billing address is for. And I'm like, okay, I understand. That's probably because of fraud, and you don't want people using someone else's credit card. But also, that's really inconvenient, because there's a lot of times where people's like parents will buy their phone for them, etc. Like, people buy phones for other people, and what if you want to ship it to like your kid? It's a pain in the ass, and it's a bad system. But I was like, whatever, I understand. I'll just make sure that I'm really careful and I grab the phone before anybody else can run off with it. I'll just ship it to my apartment. So I went and tried again. This is the third time that I am having a credit check done on me through this website. And I've made the addresses all the same. And it says, "Rejected." Ah, did you guess? Did you guess it was going to reject me again? Because this does not have a happy ending. This time, I mean, it wasn't a huge deal, but I grew up a gifted kid. And if you were also a gifted kid, you know that anytime anything in your life goes wrong, you take it as a personal sign that you as a human are a failure. So I was like freaking out, very agitated about this. And I call again, and they tell me to wait 3 days and then just go in and try again. They said the problem is that you're still in the system as having tried before, so you're showing up as potentially fraud. But if you wait 3 days, then the request will be wiped and you won't have a problem. So I did that. And it again did the credit check and said rejected. So I had to call again, and this time I was like, they, of course, did the whole thing where they keep you on hold, and they go, and you always want to yell, but then it's like, this person has no actual power or ability to change this process. Like, I'm just gonna make their day worse and my day worse if I yell at this stranger on the phone. So I always try to be polite when I'm on the phone with people. Customer service people, because they've got like the worst job in the world. No one ever calls to tell them things are going well, and I'm sure people are for the most part just rude for good reason, because something is like going wrong in their life. It's a stressful moment. But anyway, I try to be polite, unless it's a guy behaving like a misogynist asshole, or talking down to me because I'm a little lady. Then I'm not polite. Then I'm very, very rude and threatening. They send me through the whole rigmarole. I get transferred to this person's case supervisor so that they can deal with it, because I always end up getting I never ask to speak to the manager. I'm not I am not Karen. I assume whoever I am talking to, if they can't fix, like, they're the one who knows what to do with my problem. I'm not looking to get them in trouble. But I frequently have such bad luck and weird problems occur that people willingly send me up to their manager without me asking. It happens a lot. Happened in the cabin debacle. If you have not listened to the Crestline story, you should tune into that. That's another one of my videos where I had a horrible experience with Airbnb. You may think, you're like, oh, I know. I've had bad experiences too. You should watch the video because it's worse. It's worse than you think it is. It's much worse than you think it is. Back to this little story. I ended up eventually getting transferred to their credit department. Like the person who I was talking to transferred me to a higher up case manager, and then that case manager was like, I can't deal with your problem. I'm going to have to send you to the other company. We have a credit bureau, so I'm not even talking to Sprint anymore. Sprint has given up on me. They've sent me to a credit bureau. I'm kind of freaking out because I'm like, what's wrong with my credit? Like, did somebody take my identity and that's what's screwing this up? Like, ugh, like, you know, so at this point I'm worried, and I get transferred to this lady at the credit bureau. I don't know what credit bureau it was. They're like, we're gonna just transfer you to our credit department, but just so you know, it's not technically, like, this is not a Sprint company you're gonna be talking to. It's just the person who does our credit checks. And I'm like, I don't understand what this means or why that matters to me. But they transferred me, and I'm talking to this lady, and it's some nice lady, and she's like, okay, in order to continue with your application, I needed to, and I didn't realize, I had to jump through so many hoops just to try to get these people to take my money. Like, I have to go through all these levels of credit application and wait days upon days upon days. It's like, Sprint, you're not that special. There are other cell phone providers. Like, normally businesses compete with each other to get my business. It's not that I'm applying to you to allow you to allow me to buy from you. Like, take my money. So she's like, in order to complete the application, I'm gonna have to ask you a couple of questions to make sure about your identity, I guess. And I'm like, okay. So I'm like, yeah, sure. And usually identity questions like this are like, where have you lived at any of these addresses, and can you tell me your date of birth? And so I was like, all right, this is good. I know things about me. I felt very confident going into this little quiz. She was like, I have 3 questions for you. My confidence was misplaced. She says, I have 3 questions for you. The first one was easy. It was just, which of these addresses have you been associated with? And it was kind of fun because she started talking, and she says the first address, and I was like, no. And then she says the second address, and I'm like, yeah, I recognize that one. And then she said the third one, and I was like, no. And then she says again, she's like, which of these addresses have you been associated with? And I'm like, okay, I already told it. The second door number 2, I lived there. And I'm like, do I need to explain to her, how I know the address? Because she, waited when I was, number 2, and I was like, I lived there when I was in Houston. I'm trying to convince this woman I am who I say I am, so I'm probably adding too much detail. Yes, my days in Houston. They were glorious but muggy, I'm storytelling, so she'll believe me about my identity as I'm trying to buy this phone that I'm not even asking for credit on. So she goes to the next question, which was also kind of simple. It was, which of these companies have you been associated with? And I'm like, did somebody steal my credit in order to get a business loan? Is that what's happening right now? Because I do have a company now. It's called, I'm going to plug it. It's called Make Good Creative Network. And the point of that company is to support artists. I feel like we've seen over the last year, and if you're a creator over your whole life, that creators just don't get enough support. So we are working on creating a lot of content to help you live a more fulfilling creative life. So things like, here's how to boost your energy, here's where to get inspiration from, here's books that will help you, etc. As well as fun little packs that will help you feel more creative. So it's activities that will either teach you something or just make you feel more creative in general. Anyway, that's Make Good Creative Network. It came up. It came up naturally. I wasn't planning on plugging, but it came up naturally. But at the time, I haven't asked for any loans or anything, so there's no reason that it should really be showing up on my credit report. And none of the names of any businesses that she listed were familiar to me. So I was like, no. Should they be? Like, now I'm worried. Like, identity. I've had someone steal my credit card before, but they just went and bought, like, sneakers and groceries. Like, did somebody take my identity and start a whole ass small business with my social security number? So, like, anyway, she asked that question. I'm like, I don't recognize any of those businesses that you just said. I've never worked for them, or I'm not associated with them, and I don't know what associated means in this context. So, question number 3. She asks me, which of the following people have you ever been associated with? Again, that term, and she lists the 3 people. She lists the 4 people. And the names are Nadia Gomez, Lucas Ortega, Jesse Perez, and Juan Garcia. And I said to this woman, I was born in Arizona. I then lived in Texas. And now I'm in Los Angeles, California. You just gave me 4 names that are combinations of some of the most common Hispanic names in the whole damn country. At some point, I have almost certainly spoken to, worked with, or gone to school with a Nadia Gomez. I'm like, that sounds very familiar. I know Nadia's, I know Gomez's, almost certainly. I couldn't believe this question. And I'm like, why are all the names Hispanic? And why are they all, like, I have undoubtedly known all 4 of those people. And I was like, what do you mean associated with? Like, did I do a school project with them in college? Almost certainly. Like, have I worked with someone who, like, with like an Ortega or a Perez? Yes. I was like, what? I'm from the Southwest. Like, all of these names sound immensely familiar to me. And she's like, well, which ones have you been associated with? And I'm like, what does associated mean? And she doesn't say anything. And she's like, well, do any of them sound familiar? And I'm like, literally all of them sound familiar. All of them sound familiar. And she's like, okay, well, do you want me to say all of them then? And I'm like, well, fuck. And I'm trying to, like, puzzle out what associated with means. And I'm like, it's in terms of my credit report. I'm like doing detective work in my brain, like talking to this woman on the phone. I'm like, okay, it's related to my credit report. So it's probably about, have I made a purchase or gone into some kind of financial dealing with any of these people? And I'm like, no, because I've really never bought anything off credit except like my college education. So, and I haven't bought anybody else a college education, so I was just like, no, I'm gonna go with no. I am not associated with any of these people. And she goes, okay. And I'm like, what is happening? And she says, okay, and she goes, did you understand all of the questions before I submit the material? Did you understand all of the questions? And I said, clearly, no. I asked you like a lot. I asked you questions about all these questions. No. What does associated with mean? And she's like, but did you understand like what I was saying to you? And I'm like, I understand what the word associated means. And she's like, okay, great. And then she turns in the thing. And then she's like, all right, I'm afraid that you've been rejected again.